like to share is some of what I've learned, and again, it would fill volumes, but since my memory is fading, I did try to think about some of the highlights I've learned over the years at Primrose conferences. And I think the first lesson that I've learned is the importance of respectful listening, and I think it's so central to what all of you do in your jobs. In general, I think listening respectfully, refraining from judgment, refraining from any kind of rush to just determine that someone's other. I think the otherness is really what divides us, and I think so much of what this community is about is trying to find our common humanity. We all have the same universal hopes and dreams. We all want love and work, as Ellen Sachs said today. We all want good health for ourselves, our families, our children. We want education and meaningful work, purpose. So much unites us, and the common lessons that I've learned over my years in this job are extraordinary, and I've learned them from, as Gigi said, from people from every single walk of this field. One thing that I sometimes talk to my staff about is I think every single day, each one of us can inspire somebody. We just have to remember that everyone's waiting to be inspired, and each of you can inspire someone, and each of you can be inspired. So I just wanted to share stories of 4 people that really have inspired me, 4 out of the truly hundreds, if not thousands, in the course of the job. And for lack of a better order, I decided I would just proceed alphabetically. And the first individual who has inspired me is a former board member at Primer named Warren Ash, who was a very long time administrator at the National Institutes of Health. Warren Ash is a very, very bright, gentle, caring, proactive, and generous-spirited man who is living in the Washington, D.C. area. And when he was just out of his doctoral program, having gotten a PhD in biochemistry, because he was African American living in the D.C. area, he thought that a good place to get a job would be the NIH, which was then certainly growing in size and strength and financial funding. And so he went to the NIH Human Resources Office and asked about a job and showed them his newly minted doctorate. And they offered him a job as either a security guard, a janitor, or a bottle washer in a lab. And he decided that because working in a lab was at least more related to his field of interest, biochemistry, he took a job washing test tubes and beakers and other glassware and instruments in the lab. And because he was a bottle washer, his hands became very shriveled and dry and otherwise uncharacteristically red and unhealthy. And his parents had been so proud that he was the first person in his family who not only went to college, but who went onto grad school and got a doctorate. And they were so proud that their son worked at the NIH. They had no idea what he did there, but they would tell everyone they met that their son had a PhD and worked at the NIH. And so every Sunday in church, he would keep his hands folded very carefully in his lap and put his prayer book or hymnal or anything over his hands to disguise from his parents the conditions of his hands, because he was so terrified of disappointing them, because they had been so proud of him and so incredibly grateful that finally someone in the family had broken out of the cycle of inadequate education. And one day his father said, "Son, what is wrong with your hands? They just look really unhealthy. They're dry, they're cracked, they're wrinkled." And he said, "Oh no, it's nothing, Dad." And his then young bride said, "Warren, tell your parents the truth." And he said, "Dad, I never told you the truth because I did not want you to be ashamed of me or embarrassed by me. But I do work at the NIH, but I'm a bottle washer in a lab." And Warren's father and mother looked at each other and then looked at him, and his mom was very emotional, and his dad said, "Then son, you be the best bottle washer you can be. And someday you'll have another job at that NIH." And in fact, indeed, Warren Ash became the assistant director at the NIH and then went on to a very illustrious career at Howard University and became a dean there. So Warren Ash really taught me that all work has dignity, All work has meaning. Whatever we're doing, we're links in a chain. And I often think about real work. You know, it is the ditch diggers and the plumbers and the electricians and the bottle washers. You know, sadly, but realistically, if my job went away tomorrow, nobody would notice. But if the bottle washers and labs and those who lay our cable lines and keep us warm and otherwise, you know, everything functioning in our homes and cities and towns, we would notice. So purposeful, meaningful work and being proud of it, because it's all important. So I'm going to speak quickly. The next person who taught me something wonderful was Jay Katz, to whom I've already alluded. And so I'll only say that, as you heard, Jay Katz's family was born in Germany, escaped from Germany in 1940. He went to college here, law school here, and med school here, and really started to think about ethics based on what had happened in Nazi Germany. He then was asked by President Johnson to sit on the commission that was examining the atrocities as a result of the United States Public Health Service study on syphilis in the Negro male. And if I have one message for all of you, those in Tuskegee do not want it called the Tuskegee study, because it's an incredibly eminent city which has produced great people and great research and great scholarship. So they do not want to be smeared with that ignominious brush. So Jay Katz's voice on that commission, writing his book on human experimentation, and really being the founder of this field, has been extraordinarily important to me in my work. He has been my teacher. We were privileged to have him 3 times at Primer conferences, as you saw. The footage will be on our website. And Jay taught me to stand up and be counted, which is to say that if one person is vulnerable, we're all vulnerable. It is really a case, as we've all read the famous Niebuhr poem, that, you know, they came for the gypsies and I wasn't a gypsy, so I didn't object. They came for the trade unionists and I wasn't a trade unionist, so I didn't object, and on and on. And then they came for me and there was no one left to object. So Jay taught me that as long as one person is sick or ill or poor or unjustly treated or oppressed, we all are oppressed. We are all connected in a very powerful, deep way. So we absolutely have to care about each other because we're connected to each other. The third person actually is another K. Katz was the first K, and then it was Chick Coop. Some of you might remember C. Everett Koop, who was the Surgeon General in the 1980s under Ronald Reagan, when HIV/AIDS first was an epidemic, a pandemic. And C. Everett Koop had been a pediatric surgeon at the Children's Hospital of Pennsylvania, and really had been known for being this very brash, competent, extremely groundbreaking pediatric surgeon. He had divided conjoined twins. He did some surgeries that had never before been done. He was a legend. He was also very well known for being an ardent right to life individual. He wrote a number of papers about the importance of valuing all life. He was a very strong Christian and proud of it, and integrated into his medical practice, and really had, when many people heard that he was a Surgeon General and here was this plague, people assumed that his Christianity and the prohibitions against gay sex and homosexuality in general would prohibit or prevent him from being the outspoken advocate another Surgeon General without those religious prescriptions might have been. In fact, Chick Coop, Chicken Coop, his nickname was Chick, surprised everyone, impressed everyone, and changed the course of the pandemic in its early stages in our country, because as Surgeon General, he wrote a pamphlet explaining HIV/AIDS and its epidemiology, its treatment, its containment, and he had that pamphlet sent to every single household in our country. This was well before personal computers and the internet. So Chick Coop taught me that you have to always put aside your personal beliefs, your political beliefs, your religious beliefs, and do what you believe is right. And so we were privileged to have him at a Primer conference, and I was privileged to have a long-standing correspondence with him. He's still alive and well. As well. And so he just reminded me, again, a variation on the Jay Katz theme. We all are responsible for each other, and irrespective of our personal biases or prejudices, we must do what's right for each other. And finally, another K, and that is Paula Knutson, my friend, whom some of you know. She works at the University of Texas in Houston, and she's been with Primer since the late 70s, and she's just a very, very wise woman. And what she taught me is a very simple message, which is that you can't really do anything for anyone else unless you try hard to take care of yourself. And so I mostly fail at that, but it doesn't stop me from trying. I go swimming and I meditate. I'm sort of a type A person, but Paula just keeps reminding me that I'm of no good to anyone unless I'm good to myself. So I urge all of you in your important work and day-to-day challenges, don't forget to make time for yourselves. Paula tells me that I have to write myself into my calendar, quiet time with and for myself, just like I would any other important appointment. So in conclusion, I think that I love listening to stories. I learn from everyone I talk to, and I try to pass it on. I hope all of you will do the same. I powerfully, powerfully believe that we're all connected by invisible threads, and those threads are strong, and they cross globes, and they cross cultures, and they cross races, ethnicities, religions, and we all have so much to learn from each other. So thank you.